state that brought you Secret Lives of Mormon Wives, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and Under the Banner of Heaven, Mormons in Media and Mormon Land join forces to explore the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Welcome to the Mormon Land and Mormons in Media crossover podcast. This is the podcast where Nicole attempts to ask me Rebbe questions about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints based on what she and I are both viewing in pop culture. Nicole, how are you doing this week now that we are all required to be breaking journalists on these horrible stories that we wish were not happening? How are you keeping up?
I feel like I just keep asking, what the heck is happening in Utah? What the heck is in your water?
Same, and I live here, so I don't know. The thing, yeah, I think everyone's asking that, and the truth is, I'm like, is it like what's happening in Draper? Is it Daybreak? Like, where do these women live? It feels so foreign to my life. It's wild.
And every day, there's something new. And
every day,
Jessi from Secret Lives was on this past week on Alex Cooper's Call Her Daddy podcast, and I thought it was so funny. In the very beginning, Alex had to do a disclaimer of, this was recorded on this date. So anything that happens after this date, we're not avoiding it. It's just, it hasn't happened yet.
Crazy. And it was probably like 2 days later.
Exactly.
I feel like since they pulled Bachelorette, I stopped watching the season altogether. I Googled some recaps so that we could talk about this. I mean, I looked for recaps and I am aware of what happened, but I feel like all of whatever small bit of interest or desire I had to consume these stories, it's too much. I have to take care of my children and go to work, right? I'm just able to keep up with this much content. It's wild.
Honestly, I have, to make myself feel better this week, or this month, I should say, I have given myself the excuse of, this is for work. This is for work.
Yeah.
But it's so true, because I am very glad that I consumed this past season of Secret Lives before all of this news break, because I will say, while watching it, this was probably the first season where I watched it as, okay, these are characters. I took the, I guess, more personal aspect of it out.
Yeah.
Because it's season 4, they're a little bit more seasoned. Mm-hmm. And while it was deep, there's always deep things happening because it is reality TV and it's their real lives, it felt like, okay, they're playing into the drama. They're, these edits, I can see what they're doing. I consumed it as their characters.
That's interesting.
And that it was the first season that I personally was able to do that. And then after all the news broke, I mean, and I'll say, after this season, I was sat for the Bachelorette.
Oh,
I had plans
even before it.
I had plans on that Sunday. I was we're watching live.
I had put out a group text that was who's watching the Bachelor? Let's take turns.
Which I haven't done since 2013. I have not cared.
Same. I'm the only thing I'm sad about is that I no longer get to have an excuse to hang out with my friends every Sunday night. And it's interesting because I watched, I had this weekend, right? I flew to New York, do a girls trip. I see Whitney Levitt in Chicago, and on the plane to and from, I watched a couple episodes. So I think I did 4 or 5, and I was I'm actually kind of having a good time. This is the first time I'm kind of enjoying it, which after last season felt so dark and heavy.
It did.
And awful. And I was okay, maybe this is going to be fun. And then it all just changed, and I have not been able to touch it. I just have no appetite for it.
Yeah.
It's wild. So I mean, let's talk about season 4. What were some of your, I don't know, big takeaways or questions for me after watching season 4?
I will say, after watching it, it kind of was the first season where I felt okay, religion plays no part in this. In terms of their everyday life.
Amen.
I think after I watched the season and I really thought about it, and especially after the news broke and that video got released, it really, I think what the part that played into it to religion for me was, this is why anybody, I don't think, like, I know that the church, and I don't think it's necessarily LDS specific. I think it's just like religion in general really preaches these family values and getting married, having kids, stuff like that. But like, I feel like this is the absolute perfect reason that that's not always the best case. Like, we live in a different generation. We live in a different society than 60, 100, 150 years ago, to where who you have kids with, you're stuck with. And who you marry, like, yes, you can get a divorce. Yes, you can get out. But like, it's not that simple. It's it's not. And I feel like that is what made me sad this season, is to know that all of these women were at some point in their lives, influenced by religion to get married, to, whether it's settling or not, like whether they were in love at the time or not, but they got married and they had kids really young, and now look at what's happening, and I think that was like my biggest takeaway is, okay, if you're going to get married young, fine, whatever. You can be divorced by 23 if that's how you please. Or like Jessi, you can have 2 divorces before whatever. However you so please. That's the least of my worries. But please wait until your frontal lobe develops to have kids with somebody.
I know. And it's so interesting because I feel like I have done a lot of like trying to parse these things out, right, as I've watched, because I do think I see this happening, I see these narratives pop up on TikTok and whatnot, that it's like, they're all child brides and that's the problem and that's what the church teaches and so that's bad. I do think that it is a bit more complicated than that, of course. Like, I think that I have always been an advocate of waiting to get married and to have kids. And I do think that now the church is doing that too. Like, we've talked a little bit more about, I don't think they're advocating for waiting, but like my experience now, I'm a leader in Young Women's and like our women's, youth organization for the girls. And we're never talking about marriage. Like, we're talking about missions, we're talking about college, we're talking about their spiritual foundation. We're not like, coming
Which is
in
probably
our
way
dresses.
different than 10 years ago.
Yeah. But it's also interesting because like, I do, as I was going through it, as I was in my early 20s and whatnot, I was like, I'm not getting married young. Like, I'm having kids later. And then, joke's on me. I like struggle with infertility and had kids a lot later than I thought I would. Right. And like, which is fine. And I'm grateful that I've been able to have kids. But like, I think that going through that, I very much was of that mindset. But it's interesting at this point in my life to look back and see the couples who have gotten divorced. And it's not like all of them were just young marriages. Like, I know too many people who have gotten married and had kids young and are doing great to be able to say like, okay, across the board, it's bad. And the only reason I say that is because I do think that I was reading like a study that came out earlier this week about youth within the LDS Church and just how they are, they've, done all these studies that show that they are higher in confidence and self-assurance and largely it's because they are treated as equals in their church communities and they have these big villages that support them. So I think that it is one of those things where it's obviously reality TV. This show is trying to feed us this narrative that like might as well just avoid it altogether, right? Might as well live a little bit of life and wait to have kids until you're like fully mature. But I think that like, if you look at the circumstances surrounding all of these young marriages, Michaela and Jace, she got pregnant when she was 15, right? The church is not teaching that.
Right.
Dakota and Taylor, the church is not teaching anything that they're doing, right? Jessi and Jordan, it feels clear that she is just, she was not healed from her first marriage by the time she got into the second relationship. And I do think that's one area where the church might be like the most culpable is just putting an outsized emphasis on the importance of marriage and family. And it's something that, they are still talking about. And to your point of like us living in a different time, am very interested in how this will shift, because I've even heard, in as recent as President Oak's first kind of devotional that he gave at BYU, he's talking about the importance of, marriage and family and how young people are kind of like moving away from it. But there are realities, like there are financial realities now. You can no longer just like, oh, well, you can buy a house in Utah that, has a 5-bedroom for $250,000. That used to be the case. Like that is not feasible anymore. Right. So it's, again, just like an interesting question of like, where does doctrine align with culture? How do those things, interact? And I do think, though, that Jessi for sure is to some extent a victim of feeling like, the most important thing for me is to get married. Because you do feel that way. At least I did. Hopefully girls now are not feeling that way. But I think that is the area where the church plays into it the most. Or I guess, is the most like culpable, is just placing this outsized pressure on young marriage and family. So
yeah, and I think moving forward, like going back to the generational thing, I genuinely think that, just like everything, right? Like AI, right, is getting implemented into the workspace and even in religion, like there's these things that in every industry that they have to update to keep up. And I don't think religion, I think for so long people have viewed religion as black and white. And I think that, in my opinion, religion's going to have to keep up too. And I think that's what, like in the previous episodes, we've talked about like the whole like Mormon 2.0 and like the Lisa Barlows and this and that. And, the Chase Miranda's baby daddy was on a podcast that I listened to, and he kind of talks about his friend group and people his age and how, and like this and that, and how it's just very nuanced. And I think that with Gen Z and younger, there is going to have to be a shift, because there's just a lot of, like me personally, I feel like I am working through a lot of childhood things that, weren't necessarily bad, but they have affected the way that I live my life today. And, there's certain things that I want to be better on, and there's certain things that I want to peel back. And like, my parents aren't doing that, like they're, they parented, they wiped their hands, and that's that, and then it's like, here we are, millennials, like, okay, well,
let's go to therapy.
Let's go to therapy.
Yeah.
And so, even that shift from our parents' generation to our generation, there is such an awareness that wasn't there. Like, I feel like that generation, and I think my parents are considered baby boomers. Yeah. Like it just was what it was. And I feel like because millennials have gone through so many shifts in the digital, just everything, to where now Gen Z is kind of in the same boat of, not only are they more aware, but they have access to way more tools. Yeah. And just
too much information.
Way too much. And and so I think that is where, religion is going to have to keep up, because if you tell someone like marriage is the most important thing, and that's the undertone, take our, people in their 30s, for example, if that's what their parents have preached them their entire life, then they're going, whether they're religious or, go to church every Sunday or not, they're going to have that undertone of marriage is the priority, marriage is the goal. Yeah. Or, oh, okay. Like even, I can't remember who it was. It honestly, I'm not sure, but it was somebody not Secret Lives related, but they were like, I really thought I would have 2 kids by 25. And I'm like, 2 kids by 25? Yeah. While that may work out for some people, I think it's just so complex in the sense of, like, are you healed from previous relationships? Jessi, no. But, or, but even, Taylor, Frankie, Paul, like you have so much to work through.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I think that's where it gets very complex within religion, is because even if they're not like saying, hey, you just got divorced, go get married. Like, oh, you're dating, you should get married to the next person that you date. Like, even though that's not the message, there's still the undertone of marriage is the priority, family is the priority. So yes, you're divorced, but like, what's next?
Yeah. And it's in the water. It's so deep in our culture, and it's going to take a long time to kind of shift that. Right. And it's interesting because it's like, this emphasis on children, but then also this like emphasis on family staying together. And like, the LDS Church isn't like, you are allowed to get a divorce, but they certainly aren't like encouraging it. Right. Because they're all about keeping families together and creating good environments. Like, the point isn't just to get pregnant, like the point is to like create a loving environment for a child to grow up in,
and thrive.
And so I think that, I think the church has already kind of, been burned with maybe being a little bit late in the digital age to, in the past, it was kind of like some more troubling aspects of church history. They were kind of like glossing over or just not talking about. But then it's like, well, everyone started finding this stuff on the internet, and it has pushed them. Now they're a lot more open about things. And it's always just interesting to me. It's like, teaching the gospel to kids. I've definitely had that, like, grew up with it being more black and white. Since I've kind of come into more of my own faith, it has had to be more nuanced. And like, if you look at like the teachings of Jesus, like they are very confusing. Parables are confusing. Like, it's all about like contradiction and challenging already held beliefs. And like, I think that he was always about nuance, and it wasn't so black and white. Right. But it's hard teaching kids. It's weird now, like seeing this with my own kids. It's just a lot easier to teach it black and white. And at some point, they can only handle kind of a more black and white. You have to do it gradually. But I do think that like I hope that we are doing Gen Z. I hope that we can do them more favors by like taking that more, I don't know, complicated approach to it. But
and honestly, that's a really good point, because if I look back at my experience within like Southern Baptist and how, growing up, like I came out at a young age, I came out in high school. So obviously that gives a lot of questions. And I had a very curious mind. I have read, New and Old Testament front to back. And, I have questions because certain things don't make sense to me. Yeah. So I'm going to ask, Mm-hmm. And I think that is where black and white hurts people, is when you raise a question, if it is something that you are so devout in and that you believe so heavily in, you should welcome questions. You should welcome challenges, because if you stand so deep in your faith, not only should you know what all, you don't have to know the earth as Jesus knew it himself, but like you should know certain topics if you're preaching it. And so when you ask questions, it seems to always be met in a defensive manner. It's never like, oh, that's a good question. Like, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Or
you're saying in your experience in religion, it was that way for you?
Yeah. Whereas like if I had a question about something, that it would always be met with, oh, that's what it says, or this is how it reads. But it's like, I want to have a conversation about it. I want to talk about it. And I don't need you to change my mind, or like, I as a human have the ability to form my own opinions and my own beliefs, but that doesn't mean but that might have gone differently, like my beliefs might have gone differently if somebody was able to talk to me and tell me how they perceive it.
And just receive your questions in an open way rather than like acting so defensive.
Yeah. And I think that is going to be the key with Gen Z and younger, is they are going to have questions, because when I read Romeo and Juliet in 2026, I'm going to be like, what kind of literature is this? Like why don't they write literature like this anymore? Like it's different. And, Book of Mormon, the Bible, like whatever it is, that's a different generation. That's a different time. There's going to be questions.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it like if people of religion don't want people to leave religion, I do think there needs to be a more open space for dialogue.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, again, I feel like we end up getting to this almost every episode, but it's like questions are what started the restoration of the church. So I think that like, I think that I understand a fear around questions when it's from a leader and they're just so because they want you to believe it, you know, but I don't think it's ever helpful to the questioner to be met with fear and defensiveness. So yeah, note to everyone in charge of a religion. This is our feedback for you.
just go with the vibe. Like just vibe it out, you know, like questions aren't a bad thing. Dialogue isn't a bad thing. But I do think that when it is black and white, it gives these undertones. And even, you know, take the girls of Secret Lives out of it and just look at the men. Like you have Zach, who is trying his darndest to have a redemption arc, but even his undertone, right? Like the insecurities that he has within himself, like that could be a reflection of how he was raised in religion. To, you know, he has to be the provider, he has to be the man, this and that. And now, you know, now that that's switched and flipped and Jen's getting this attention and Jen's making the money and he's saying like all of these things, like, yeah, he's going to have a hard time with that because he's been programmed to learn to say that this is not how his life is supposed to go. Yeah, like probably not his fault. Like let's give him a little bit of grace when his whole life he thought one thing and now he's got to completely switch. That would be hard for anyone. Yeah. I feel extremely worried about the mental stability of both Jen and Zach. But that's a whole podcast of its own. I'm curious, like, I don't want to get too... I told you I have a Chase allergy, but then people are like, okay, but he's kind of funny on TikTok. Are you a Chase fan? Did the Mormon stories make you like him more or less? Man, yeah, I have to say I'm a Chase fan. Oh. I'm a Chase fan, but going into it, I did not know of really anything about Chase because he hasn't really been on the show and until really this season until he started clout chasing. I can't get over the clip of him on his podcast being like, you guys know that the only reason Macy has followers is because her baby daddy died, right? Like, and that's all I need to know. Did you get to the point in now? See, I have never listened to his podcast. No, that's the only part I've seen. Yeah, I'm judging him squarely off that. Maybe I know nothing of his podcast, and they played that clip in this season. I don't know if you got to that episode. I saw it, and he apologizes, but it's like, but then afterward, Macy's like, something fishy to me about like you apologizing on camera when you've had years to apologize and you've never said something in person. I don't know. Some people, I think their face tells me all that I need to know, and that's the case with Chase. He just has douche face. I'm sorry. I should maybe give him a chance, but he's funny, and I think that why he is funny on social media. That's what I've heard. Yeah, he's funny on social media. He's funny with Miranda. Now, is he, you know, dating Jessi? Sorry, we won't get into that. Yeah. Who knows? But he is a flawed man, and I think he knows that. But I think that's why, especially after listening to him on Mormon podcast, on Mormon Stories. Are we not saying the name? Yeah. No, I don't know. Every single person I have told that I've listened to has different feedback for me for it. It's very polarizing. It is a very polarizing podcast. So yes, tell me what your perception was after watching him. He has a very interesting story, and I will always appreciate. Funny enough, this was a repost from Taylor Frankie Paul before all of this happened. Like, this was like when season 4 dropped, but it was a repost where it was like, I would rather sit at a table with sinners who can admit their mistakes versus people who pretend they've never done anything wrong, or something like that. Yeah. And I think that Chase really replicates that. Is anything that he's done, he doesn't get defensive. He talks about it. Like, he is able to talk about his mistakes in a way where it's like, this was a mistake that I made, this is what I'm doing to correct it, and hopefully it doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And so he just talks about it in a very matter-of-the-fact way, when I feel like in other podcasts and other things, when you bring up somebody's mistakes, the first reaction that you get is defensive-ness. So I really appreciate that about him.
Case in point, Demi.
Yes.
Just say sorry. Just say
sorry.
You're sorry. Say you messed up. Move on. Like, that is all people want. Yeah.
Exactly. So listening to him on that, his story was very interesting. And now I have questions, because it sounds like, is Idaho just as niche as Utah?
Parts of it, yeah, for sure. I mean, Rexburg is the town where BYU Idaho is. So
that's
Rexburg,
where he's from.
Oh man, okay, interesting. I did Rexburg. I don't know if this is true anymore, so I shouldn't like hate on Rexburg. And guess there are people who go to BYU Idaho and absolutely love it. I think it's smaller. I think it's a little bit like more personal and not so overwhelming, like BYU Provo maybe is. My experience, I went to like a youth summer camp there. It was called EFY. Lots of like teens would go do that. Because I grew up in Provo, I was like, I got to go somewhere else to make this somewhat interesting. I'll go to Rexburg. So I went to EFY at BYU Idaho, and they had a rule at the time. I don't know if they still have it. You cannot show, I don't even want to tell you this. I don't want to tell you this, Nicole. You could not wear open-toed shoes. You couldn't wear sandals, because I guess it was like too casual or something. You couldn't wear anything that showed your ankles. Like you had to wear pants, because our ankles are too sexy. No, I don't know. I think
in the summer?
In the summer. I went in the summer.
Does Idaho get hot?
Yes. I went as like a 14-year-old girl, and I was like, this is what's the word, like authoritarian, and I will never go to this school. Like, I was like, so I don't know why. I don't know if that has loosened up.
Well, that makes sense, because there was we had some type of meeting earlier, and the Tribune has posted there, when BYU makes news, they'll post stories of BYU, and somebody said that people are now saying that BYU Provo is woke. They're calling them woke and like way too liberal.
Yeah. People say that about Deseret News too. Sorry, am I allowed to say that on this podcast? I mean, people are crazy politically right now. Like, I don't know what is happening.
It's a very polarizing time, no matter where you're at.
Yeah, I think that Rexburg is, and again, it's one of those things, I don't want to assume, it's annoying to me being from Provo that people assume I just like grew up on campus. I grew up 3 miles away, okay? No, but like, I don't know if
what a
Chase,
trek.
I know. If Chase has had the same thing where it was like growing up in Rexburg. I mean, I'm sure church culture was strong where he grew up. But yes, for sure, Rexburg. There are little pockets. Like Mesa, Arizona, same thing. It's like mini Provo, or like, I don't know, people call it hot Provo or like naughty Provo. I don't know. It's there are little pockets that are like my,
Gotcha. Yeah. So his story was very interesting to me, and he grew up very Mormon. And like living by the rules. He never drank, and Miranda, who was his wife, was his first. So like he sustained from everything. What is it?
Word of wisdom?
Yeah, like he did all of that. And he said, funny enough, that he started really deconstructing when he served his mission.
Interesting.
And he shared, and I'll just give a Spark Notes version of it, but it was such an intriguing story, that I guess him and his
companion,
that they were, I guess, trying to convert somebody, and somebody was interested in this and that, but he was an older man and was raised Catholic and has been Catholic his entire life, and this and that. And long story short, when it came time, I guess, for him to make the decision or do whatever it is, whatever step that is, he said that he couldn't do it because he made a vow to his wife, which I'm assuming who was no longer there.
Yeah.
And that vow that he made to his wife, like, meant more to him. And so Chase was saying, like, who am I to tell an 80-year-old man that the religion that he has lived and believed and for his entire life is not the right one. Like, how am I to tell him that you've been wrong your entire life? Listen to me. I'm 20. Listen to me. And so that's like what started his deconstructing of like, he couldn't do it. So he went to, and he said to this day, he still keeps in touch with him, that like, and
that's really sweet.
Even during his time there, like I guess whatever fellowships and stuff that they would do, like he would still bring him because he wanted the community, the companionship, and so he gave him that without making him do that. But I just thought that was like very interesting because, you know, that is, whereas here, like in North Carolina, you don't see as much like LDS conversions, but you still have that same sentiment of what I believe is what I believe, and it's what you should believe too. And so that's kind of that. I don't know. It struck me because I don't know, like it's almost as if where you're born into this world, whether you're in a predominantly Catholic area, a predominantly LDS area, a predominantly Baptist area, like whatever it is, like that seems to be what you stick with. Yeah. And I don't know, like zooming out of that, it just, like to Chase's point, it's like, how can you tell somebody what they believe is wrong when if you look at everything, like everything has changed?
It's interesting too, as you're talking about that, like I'm thinking about, you know, when the church made a big push to use the correct name of the church, the full name of the church. And it was like, well, someone else already had the website, churchofjesuschrist.org, you know, and people were like, well, no, we're the churchofjesuschrist.org, so we should get the website. And it was just a weird, like, kind of example of what you're saying. Like, we make truth claims. Every church makes a truth claim, right? But the LDS Church is very aggressive about its truth claims. And I think that is always, it's like, who gets to say like, no, this is true and you should believe it because it is true. And if you don't, you know, like, I think at some point, obviously the role of a missionary is to, you know, present the truth, have someone study it, ask for themselves, right? Ask the questions to people around them, but most importantly, ask God, right? Pray about it and like get your own answer. Otherwise, you know, no one can ever tell you like, this is true for you. But that is like what the church would say is its mission, is to like bring everyone this truth that they say, no, we for sure have, like, and they're not saying we are the only ones who have truth, but they are saying we're the only ones who have a full truth, right? So that's also to me like, why are we sending missionaries out when they're 18? I don't know. I know that I'm not making those decisions. Thank heaven I'm not sitting in those meetings, but I'm like, man, can they be fully prepared at that point? Like, is there, and I'm sure there's some, you know, they're like naive enough to be optimistic and like teachable and like willing to learn. But it is something that like, I think as I've gotten older, you know, growing up, I just always looked at the missionaries put them on such a pedestal. They know everything, you know, and then since being an adult and working with them, I'm like, wow, these guys are so young. And I have a lot of like compassion for missionaries who go thinking, I believe this. But then, you know, as they're trying to teach other people, for sure, I can see that questions would come up, challenges to their faith would come up. So
is there an age?
That is a very real thing.
Is there an age cap to it? Like,
yes, I don't know what it is though. Like it used to be, like, I want to say like 25 or 26 that
interesting.
You wouldn't go anymore. But they just changed it. They keep lowering it. So it used to be 21 for girls and 19 for boys. And then they changed it to 19 for girls, 18 for boys. And now they're saying that anyone can go when they're 18, which is just so young.
Yeah. And I feel like that too is like going back to generational and society changes. Like I feel like that's something that like the goal of a mission, I bet in 10 years is going to change from like what it is now, because even just the sales pitch of it all, right? Like, we are being sold things on a day-to-day basis just as humans, right? Like we don't accept pitches the way that we used to. And
like someone coming to my door and knocking on my door, that's like an act of aggression. Like, I am so angry.
Even like I get mad when UPS requires a signature. I'm like, I don't want to open my door for you.
Yeah.
Leave it. Like,
I know. And I think the church has shifted a lot. They do a lot more online. They're doing a lot more with like service missionaries. Like, I think they are, you know, always trying to adapt and figure out, okay, what are ways we can, you know, meet people in ways that feel, you know, helpful and not threatening. But yeah, I mean, I think it's always changing.
I feel like missionary for service is the way to go, because just as if I was a bystander and I saw, and Chase and said another quote in that podcast that I thought was really good. It was like, everything I love about Mormonism, I can do without Mormonism, or like something like that. And I thought that was super interesting, because if I observed a group of people in fellowship, or just, you know, doing community work, or just being good examples of their faith, I feel like I would be more interested to know, like, where is this coming from, versus, hey, can I talk to you about my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ?
Yeah. And it's interesting because, I mean, the church, that is one thing that, like, the church does so much humanitarian work and aid, and like they do so much, and on a ward level, but on a mission level, I'm the same as you. I'm like, I think there should be, I love the idea of a mission that's like more service based. I love the idea of like someone just being able to go on a service mission. Like, maybe they're not all the way there in their faith yet. Like, let them just go serve, and like, I don't know, see where that gets them. Again, I luckily don't make the rules, but I think that they really struggle with how public to make that. And, you know, there's like these helping hands vests. So sometimes when a large group of Latter-day Saints will do a service project, they'll wear these yellow vests that say like helping hands on. It says like Mormon helping hands. I don't know what it says anymore, but like, and it's kind of to show like, hey, we're here to help and here's who we represent. But then you have people like outside the church or who've left the church that are like, that's totally putting yourselves on a pedestal. That's so showy. So it's kind of, I think it's this tricky, like, damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like, it's tricky.
It's 2026. You literally have people getting millions of views from filming themselves handing homeless people money. Like, I know. So it's like, I mean, you're right. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But
better to just do. Like,
I mean, if people like want, I do understand in a bossy way, but like every year when those numbers come out, like of their humanitarian work and how much money has gone to that, it's always mind blowing to me, because obviously the other stuff of the spending and how much they have, and like that's on full display, but they really keep quiet the other stuff. And it's like, I mean, there's a way to do it in just allowing people to know. Like, to me, I view that as transparency, you know. It's not like you have Oaks like on a selfie cam, like, here I am with my helping hands.
Oh my God. Well, cringe.
Or like going live on Instagram, like, here we are.
Yeah, he would, I think, rather die. Not that I know him personally, but and it's interesting because they'll do like I remember President Nelson a few years ago gave a talk where his whole talk in general conference was just like, here are some numbers of church service. And so I think they do it. It's just they're not like super public, or they haven't figured out how to like, I don't know. They haven't made a Hulu reality TV show about it yet, which is the real problem. I want to talk about Layla. And I think we could segue to Layla via Chase's brother Mason, who Layla dates in season 4, who we know she's no longer dating, which is so sad. I watched that video of her like talking about how they're not together, and she just looks so heartbroken.
I know.
And I really feel for her. I just want Layla. Why couldn't we have had Layla as the Bachelorette? She would have done great. But Layla said a thing that I need to debunk. She said, like, yes, it's kind of weird that I've dated Chase and now I'm dating his brother Mason, but I do think it's more typical in Mormon communities. I do not think that is a thing in Mormon communities.
I don't know, Rebby, because now with the Chase and the Jessi thing, is Chase the only man in Utah?
Chase is just the Pete Davidson of this of mom talk. Like
that's fine. Yeah, okay.
I don't know, like
Pete Davidson of Hollywood is Chase of the LDS Church.
Yes, yeah. Like I don't know. I have not met this man again. He's like, my instinct is to be repulsed, but apparently I'm wrong. I do think that dating within like friend groups and circles, what's just so weird and again not typical about this friend group is that they're acting like they're all married with kids, but they're acting like they're in high school. Like the trip they took to LA where they're all like staying in the same house. I'm like, guys, this is not normal. People don't do this after you have your own family. Like, it's not even a religion thing. It's just like a growing up and moving on thing. Like, it's so weird.
I've seen so many parallels to this group and this drama to, you know, how we were raised with Ron and Sammy on Jersey Shore. And I'm like, all is fine. But the difference is these were kids that did not have kids and they were just there to party. Like, now, like, these are people who, I think there's a couple of them that are young, but like for the most part, these are people near 30 that are adults. You have zero excuse to act like that.
Yeah, we're not like, we don't need to all get a house together. It's just, and we don't all need to like, it is so weird to me to have like, okay, the friend group and there's like 16 of us and we're all in on each other's like relationship drama. No.
And they're not even drunk. They're not even, but like some of these like big blowout things that happen in season 4, like there's no alcohol involved.
Yeah, I loved the moment. Wait, was it when Harry Jowsey came and he's like, and you guys are all sober? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, but I do think they're like pumping Red Bulls all the time, right? Like they're, I don't know. And also who knows what they're doing. Tell me about Layla's GLP-1 stuff, because I didn't get that far in the season.
Yeah, so, and they teased it, you know, in the trailer and throughout the season, but it appears in the very last episode, which that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I get it, like Taylor is the leader of Mom Talk and like her story with Dakota, like whatever, but it's just so played out that that I think that in today's world, where because the funny thing is watching this on Hulu, if you have the version with commercials, every commercial is some GLP-1, like it really? Is. Yes, it's everywhere. Like every show that I watch, whether it's Peacock, Hulu, even if I'm watching like network TV, it's Serena Williams on a GLP-1. It's, you know, just all of these GLP-1 ads, and there is a gray market for GLP-1s and peptides, and you know, now we are living in this world where it's easy access, and especially if you have money or you know somebody, it's so easy. I mean, I have a friend who, and thank God she won't ever find this podcast, but she her injector for who she goes to like Botox and filler also has the ability to give GLP-1s.
Oh my gosh.
And I mean, she's not a doctor, and you know, my friend is not somebody who is A, diabetic, or B, overweight. Like, she just struggles with how she views herself and wants to be skinnier. So yeah, she's going to pay, you know, however much to get the injection. And it, you know, it's probably been about 2 years that she's been on it, and you can tell, like, if you need it to lose, like, I'm not saying, you know, like I'm only speaking for people who do not need it, like, who are just doing it to do it.
Cosmetic reasons.
Yes. Yeah. And so there is like, it's just, it's, you know, and for those reasons, we don't know the side effects. We don't know the long-term effects.
Yeah.
And so in the last episode, and I don't know if you got to this part of the season, but Layla, it's her dream to be a model, and she really wants to make it in modeling, and she travels to New York to interview or audition for to be part of, I think it's called Ford Modeling Agency, and which is apparently like one of the top ones. And long story short, they don't pick her up. And you know, a rejection like that with somebody who already struggles is hard. So I actually do think it was Jessi and Miranda who ended up talking to her just about like where she's at, how she's doing. She didn't take the rejection very well. And she reveals that she's 99 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
And so Jessi asks, she goes like, are you open to stopping tirzepatide? And she didn't know. Like, she couldn't honestly answer it because in her mind, she literally thinks down to her core that she needs to look better or she needs to be skinnier. Like, that is what she believes.
That's so sad.
So, and in the end, they do get her into a program. And I think I saw actually an update that she posted on Instagram not too long ago that she's doing better and she's not using it anymore. But it just brings up this like bigger issue of the cosmetic world and like the Utah beauty standard that I don't like. A GLP-1 addiction is not specific to Utah. It happens everywhere. I have friends who don't need it, who are on it. Yeah. And they're only on it for aesthetic purposes.
I mean, you look at celebrities too, right? Look at Emma Stone on the red carpet. Look at the whole Wicked Ariana
Kelly Osbourne. Have you seen what Kelly Osbourne looks like now?
No. Oh,
well,
geez.
For you and for whoever's listening, just Google Kelly Osbourne. You will not know it's Kelly Osbourne.
Jeez.
And it just goes back to this, like, I guess, standard of beauty that we've set. And I mean, I know we all fall victim to it. Like, we all have insecurities. But I do think that there is something to Utah specifically. And I don't know where the church ties into this. Yeah. But I think that there is an undertone that just goes back to, you know, how we started this episode of the woman.
What's happening in Utah?
Yeah.
Or what? Yeah.
WTF. Yes, that. But I do think that there, somewhere in the programming, is an undertone that women have to, like, be it. Like, be it all. They have to be the best mom, the best wife. And I do think that in that undertone, in the best wife, that means aesthetically as well. Yeah.
And in the show, do they tie it? Does it feel like they're tying it to Mormonism?
No, it doesn't. I think that they tie it more to just her, body dysmorphia.
Yeah.
Like that,
yeah.
Like it's more to that. They don't link it to the church, but it's just, it got me thinking, like, you know, you have the Utah curls, you have the amount of plastic surgeons per capita, all of these things that Utah stands out for. Or even like a couple months ago when we talked about the 20-year-old on Love Island who had the most lip filler I have ever seen a human have. And it's just kind of like, is this a Utah thing?
Yeah. I mean, this is another thing that I'm like, give me, you know, a year and 5 experts, and I would like to get to the bottom of this, right? Yeah. Like, in my, like, civilian opinion. I mean, I think it's a conflation of a few things. Because I see these stats pop up often, again, on social media, and it's often used as like a, see, gotcha, like Utah's materialistic and gross, which I think in some pockets is true. Again, it's like, if you could come walk around my neighborhood, go to my church on Sunday, that is not what the women look like. They're just like very normal.
That was going to be my next question. Then
they take care of themselves. Like, and again, it's probably just because I don't live in a super wealthy area, you know? I do think like one part of the stat that I always would love, well, I would love to have like breast augmentation pulled out of it. And then I would like to see if you would average the number of kids that the general female population is having, would the breast augmentation number rise as well, right? Because
that's a good point.
I think it's like, and it's often like pitched as like, you know, it's, and I don't know where I stand on that, right? Because I think it is like a lot of women, they have given their body, they have sacrificed, like they feel like they have given so much for their families, which they have, and they just want to feel like themselves. And I'm like, you know what? That makes sense to me. But also, how often is that like, oh, while I'm at it, I'll get a tummy tuck? And also, where are we on that with like, you know, is that just something, if that makes you feel better, that's fine, right? That's where I think the line in this is so,
is that something
is so tricky.
That how like, because in the Word of Wisdom, it specifically says like no to piercings and tattoos, right?
It used to. It doesn't anymore. I mean, and that used to be, okay, so in the Word of Wisdom doesn't talk about appearance, really. It just talks about health.
Oh, okay.
But it used to be like it was a youth guide called the For Strength of Youth. And it talked about, it was very more like, okay, we're wearing shorts to our knees. We're not dating till we're 16. We're no, like one piercing for girls, no tattoos. That's not even in there anymore.
Interesting.
Like, I know, like I know many friends that have multiple piercings and like tattoos. Granted, they're often just like the cutie little like, you know, little arm tattoos
right.
or like delicate things. They're not often getting like full sleeves.
But could somebody with a full sleeve who was like devout and like say like would they be welcome in the temple?
Yes, because there are people who have full sleeves who have since been converted and are now in the temple. You know, It's not a temple recommend question. And it again is something where it's like still part of the culture. Like if I were to get a tattoo, my parents would be like, what's going on? You know? And like,
are you getting a divorce?
Yes. Yeah. Are you dating your friend's ex? But like, yeah, so I do think, and again, it's one of those, like, it's a cultural thing that like, that's now like fading out. It's just like the tank top thing, right? Like my mom's generation is probably going to feel so weird that people are now wearing tank tops with garments. I do think there's a higher beauty standard for some reason here. Part of it is just like, I think it kind of snowballs from, you know, there have also been a lot of articles that talked about like, there was one forever ago that was like the look of Mormon. And it was like, why do they all have such good skin and they're so glowy? And I think if everyone just like didn't drink or smoke and like exercise, they would probably, you know, so I think it is like, it starts with like, okay, it's a group of people who are in general, you know, healthy. They're probably like a little wealthier, you know, than the average.
Probably makes them a little bit more vain.
Makes them a little bit, they look better naturally. And then they're like, oh, but I want to keep looking better, right? Like vanity breeds vanity because no one wants to get old, I guess. But like, I also think a huge part of this is social media. Like you cannot separate the fact that these women are influencers, that their beauty is their source of power, like largely, right? They have to be on camera all the time. Look at any actor. Look at Leonardo DiCaprio just showed up to the Oscars with a full facelift, right? Like, because his job, his appearance is his livelihood. So, I do think it to me goes back to the maybe outsized emphasis on marriage, because I think the place I felt it the most was, you know, at BYU and like in YSA wards, where you're like, oh yeah, like we gotta look cute at church because we know there's more girls than boys. There's always more girls than boys in the word. And like, it's competitive. I hate that it is.
It sounds so primal. I'm currently watching Dinosaurs on Netflix, and it talks about like how these like some went extinct, and it's literally because they couldn't find a mate. Like there's more female than men.
It is dire. Like it really is. And the fact that you like, I was talking about this the other night with my sister-in-law. We were talking about like, we want there to be an Abbott Elementary, but with YSA wards. And we were just talking about all the scenarios that would come up. And one of them would have to be the fact that you, at age 31, you age out. You can't be in the singles anymore. You have to go to like a mid-singles ward, and then you have to go to a family ward. So it really is like, there's so much weird pressure, and I hate that. And that's another thing that I think is going away. But with it going away, I think leaders now are freaked out also because, just like broader studies say that like Gen Z just isn't dating anymore. So like, what does that do for, how does that affect, like, do we need to up the age of the mid singles? I don't know. So I think, again, like that's my biggest, I feel like I'm always harping on this, but just like making church about Jesus and less about marriage seems like a good shift to me.
And honestly, if anything that this hour has shown me is that, maybe we start our own religion.
Let's do it.
Where it focuses on being a good person, easy. Service.
Yeah, let's do it.
I think Chase would be on board.
Yeah, or like, let's just, I don't know. I mean, I think that's part of, for me, I feel like there is so much good in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Like, there is so much good in it. And I think you can do all these things within it. There are people who are ultra Orthodox and there are parts of the culture that are broken, but like, you get to live it how you're going to live it, right? I mean, to a certain extent, yes, if you want to go to the temple, you got to live a certain way. But like, I just think that, and that's always, I wish that in all this stuff, all this dialogue that's coming out about the church, that's using these women as the representation for it, like, it's just such a flat depiction of the reality of being a member of the church, just as any reality TV about any organization would be, right?
Yeah. And too, I think that now that I think more into it is that if it, like, it'll stay Orthodox until it gets challenged. And I think that now with all of the nuance and all of these people who are taking the good and not messing with the bad, like, they're forcing these changes. And, and that's, that's
how progress happens. Yeah. That's how change happens. And I think that's, that's a constant source of like, there's just a lot of tension in being a member of the church. But I think it's, to your point about questions not being bad, like, I don't think it's bad. I think there's always been tension in religion. I think there's tension in any organization or community. And I think it's just like, okay, how do we explore it? And how do we build from it and expand and make it better instead of, I don't know, make it more open, more curious, more inclusive, instead of just these black and whites that we like refuse to explore. So
yeah, and I'll end with one other thing that Chase said in that podcast, which really resonated with me, is it because he was talking like his parents are still very heavily involved in the church, and he said like his dad like lives his life by the word of, like, he is very devout, this and that, and he said it makes sense for him. Like, why would I try to? He said, I am the best at being Chase. Like, I know what works best for me and what works best for my life. And like, that part of religion isn't it, but it makes sense for other people. And he said, I don't want to try to influence you to live your life the way I live my life. And I don't want you to influence me to live my life the way you live your life. Yeah. And I think that, while I know a huge thing of religion is conversion and you want to bring people in. I do think that maybe reverse psychology would work here and just chill out with the sales pitch and just live your life based on how you want to be represented by the church. And then maybe people would be like, hey, maybe they would say, what's in the Utah water in a good way.
Yes. At least let them come on their own terms instead of like being so, pushy with it. Okay, well, this has been so fun. I mean, I guess we're not going to be talking about The Bachelorette. What will we talk about next month? Who knows?
Maybe look, everything else is getting leaked. Maybe some producer at Disney can just leak it.
If it came out, would you still watch it?
Like I said, I grew up on Sammy and Ron. Like, I do not like that video. My mouth was wide open. I couldn't watch. I watched it once. I couldn't watch it again. Like, it really hurt me. But I have also seen other like things that bring up like, okay, well, here are all the NFL players that currently have domestic charges violence. Here are all the other bachelors and bachelorette people and this and that. And I'm like, do I think Taylor is just the punching bag right now? Like,
Absolutely.
I think she needs help more than anything.
Amen.
But yeah, I think the curiosity in me would get the best of me, and I would sit down for every episode.
Even just because she's so entertaining, she's so like it would just be fascinating. That was always the draw for me, is just that it was going to be fascinating. But yeah, it's interesting how like you always know the Bachelor's fake, but just now knowing that she was so not there for the right reasons, it's like we couldn't suspend disbelief anymore.
I know, because the final episode, it literally shows her missing her first flight because she did sleep with Dakota. So literally the night and morning of, she was with Dakota, missed her first flight, and then went. So it's like, okay, so at that point, even if you were with the person that you chose on The Bachelor, like no person is watching that and being like, I feel secure in this relationship.
No. Yeah, absolutely not. Oh, okay, well, we will stay on this breaking news story as it develops, hour by hour.
I was about to say, breaking news will happen.
I know. Okay, thanks so much. This is so fun, and thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next month.
And join our religion.
Our new religion. I can't wait.